I think to me IIT looks still very similar in some ways. Maybe some hostels seem bigger than they used to be. There are clearly some new structures on the campus. But I think students, perhaps the biggest change I notice is that students are a lot more confident. I think they seem more entrepreneurial. There are these incubator labs inside, outside, where they are setting up their own companies. I think it's an excellent development. I've been in some touch with Professor Pushpa Trivedi in economics to help with the curriculum design for the bachelor's in economics degree. But, broadly, we've not had too many liberal arts offerings, both in terms of the actual degree you do, as well as in terms of the courses that are offered. So, in contrast, if you look at an undergraduate, let's take United States, which is perhaps the most sought undergrad degree, there you join a university for undergrad and you really figure out on the fly what your discipline is going to be, how you want to shape your majors, etc. In contrast, we are still very vocational in the way our undergraduate is designed. You pick medical or you pick engineering, etc. right away. So I think that offering a bachelor's in economics or in policy studies is, I think, a step in the right direction. I think the country, the Reserve Bank, our banking sector, I think they need more students who have specialized in economics, finance, have very solid foundation in these areas. I think math plus economics or computer science and economics, these are excellent combinations, even in terms of jobs and placement after the degree. So I hope that the program does very well and eventually it starts getting combined with other majors. I think if this is done well, I think IIT Bombay would be providing a huge service to the country, actually. And I hope other IITs actually follow the lead and also offer economics education. There are, of course, massive infrastructure issues relating to these problems. In principle, one should be able to give substitute housing to the slum dwellers for getting them to maybe vacate some of the spaces that they currently occupy. But of course, this kind of displacement is never easy. It's not always liked by those who are displaced, even if in the long run it might actually be a better move for them. But I think maybe on the other question, on the other side, which is, getting education and basic health, hygiene facilities in these areas, my sense is these can be provided even if we are not able to climb the other big infrastructural challenge. And my sense is that a large number of NGOs in the country are actually doing excellent work, many of them on a very large scale. So my sense is, one can hope for the best, but I think there are enough good efforts along the way that one can try and support them and get them to be bigger and better. And I think that in itself could be a very valuable step. My sense is once a kid is educated well, they can really propel themselves out of that situation. And I think maybe that's one slightly slow long-term way of dealing with this problem, but I think it may have bigger and stronger benefits, because even if you put them into affordable housing, which is of better quality, that doesn't guarantee necessarily that they're going to be studying in the best schools or they are having adequate preparation to be literate and vocationally employable once they graduate. In some ways, I feel the transition has been very smooth for me because I feel I'm still thinking like an academic. My areas of research were very applied in banking crises, financial markets, monetary policy. So the things I'm in charge of at the Reserve Bank of India in helping shape and move in the right direction, I've been thinking about these issues academically, but also in a fairly applied sense. So in some sense, the transition is natural. My job just feels like an extension, maybe a natural extension of what I was doing as an academic. On the other hand, the lifestyle is, of course, very different. This is a day job in some sense. You do get your passages of time and moments to reflect and think from first principles and think like purely like an academic. But of course, it's an operational job, and there are things to roll out, there are things to take care of, there are new developments in the market every day that you have to respond to. So in that sense, it is a different lifestyle. It's a different professional work atmosphere. But I give a lot of credit to the institution that Reserve Bank of India has built. In some ways, it's a joy actually to have this opportunity for 3 months and then the rest of the next 3 years. Yeah. My own read is that this is what happens when the growth rate is not very high, because then there isn't enough going around to actually please everyone in the economy. Redistribution of the small quantities of growth that you have become very important. And if the redistribution doesn't happen very well, if the trickle down to the poorest segments of the society is not that effective, then you have the situation that it creates potential for some political parties to emerge that will, I think, rightly address the concerns of those who are not benefiting from the low levels of growth. But you also then have tremendous risk that they're going to take economic decisions, trade decisions, even geopolitical decisions, which are highly politically motivated. So I think we are certainly seeing a wave of this, I think, in the developed countries in the West. I think it's a sign that their growth has been slowing down. The policy measures in the developed world might have missed a step in the sense that they didn't always respond through structural or long-term reforms, which is how do we keep our human capital globally competitive given the waking up of these large economies in Asia. I think they chose some other populist measures, and over time it gradually destabilized these economies and led to the global financial crisis. I'm not sure if the lessons have been fully learned, like improving the quality of education, improving the quality of vocational skilling in these countries has never been on the election manifestos in most of the elections that we've seen in the last 10 years. So at some level, I think it is moving in the direction of populism, in some cases protectionism, as you said. It is worrying because I think it could shrink the pie for the global economy as a whole. But I think what it also means is that countries which do focus on structural reform, strengthening their institutions, strengthening their political setup, strengthening, I think, their education setup, may in the long run actually emerge as winners. The fact that we have so much technology now integrated into all our day-to-day operations, all our systems are basically now IT-based. And what it has created, therefore, is, of course, this new kinds of risks which are emerging to be quite important, such as cyber risk, the risk of being hacked, I think, in a banking context. So I think the pervasive use of technology is bringing with it a whole new set of risks that I think banks have to think hard to manage. These risks are somewhat unknown because, the adoption of technology at this scale is relatively new. There are many cyber risk experts in the technology space who are actually coming and contributing through their expertise. I would say that to me seems like a very important challenge to understand and then surmount. Overall, I think the signs look quite good. I think all evidence seems to suggest that the impact of demonetization on growth numbers has been at best temporary. There has been a reasonably sharp reversal in most sectors. In some sectors, the recovery is less compared to others. So overall, I think our economy is in reasonably good shape, in my view. We have good macroeconomic fundamentals. I think there is a wave of reforms that have been put in place. Hopefully more is coming. The economy is becoming more open in many ways to business. I think we have brought down levels of inflation starting in 2014 to remarkably low levels. I think what is strong, what's a real strength in my opinion of our economy is that it has a very diverse growth engine. It's not a monolithic growth engine like China's, for example, where it's very investment-based, investment capacity-based growth model so far. In contrast, we have everything. We have entrepreneurial firms. We have investment-based growth, even though that's slowed down, and as you said, that's resulted in non-performing loans for banks. If we are able to push infrastructure to a point where we can now go beyond the consumption growth of the middle class and gradually start bringing rural India into the consumption growth engine, then I think we are growing indigenously in some sense. You're absolutely right. The non-performing assets problem at banks is very massive, especially at public sector banks. It does need to be resolved as soon as possible. But increasingly what I'm finding even on this front is that our economy has looked actually more robust in terms of its financing options than I would have thought a year back. The non-bank finance companies are actually providing a large amount of credit. There's been a spurt in corporate bond and commercial paper issuances by the higher rated corporations. There is still the equity market. There is a lot of private equity and foreign direct investment that's coming into the country. And then, of course, there's the really small enterprises that are funded through microfinance entities. RBI has issued several new bank licenses. Hopefully, over time, these banks will also grow to have decent sizes. So I think I don't want to understate the bank NPA problem. I think it is quite large. We do need to resolve it. We also need to resolve the underlying companies that have actually caused the losses on the bank balance sheets in the first place. But what's good is that unlike other countries which have had significant bank NPA problems, we actually have decent levels of growth in the economy. Whereas if the NPA problem was compounded with a recession or close to 0% levels of growth, then you would have a real problem, I think. And so I think we shouldn't, however, rest on our laurels of the last 10 years. I think we could grow faster. Sometimes, 7-8% is not good enough if you can actually grow at double-digit levels of growth. So I think that has to be our aspiration. We have to ensure we get there as soon as we can, and both government, private sector, regulators all have to work together to form the right policies to make it happen. Economics, these are excellent combinations, even in terms of jobs and placement after the degree. So I hope that the program does very well and eventually it starts getting combined with other majors.